Hill Foundation. So happy to have all of you joining us today. We've got a huge crowd here in Zoom and also on Facebook. Just amazing to have so many fans of John Densmore, Melinda Newman, and Liberty Hill with us tonight. For those of you who don't know Liberty Hill, we are the home for progressive Los Angeles. So whether you've been around Liberty Hill for a long time or this is your first Liberty Hill event, welcome home. At Liberty Hill, we take the guesswork out of giving. So if you are wondering what you can do to fight racism and economic inequality, become part of Liberty Hill. If you are wondering as one individual, what can you do about climate change, about mass incarceration, about homelessness, join Liberty Hill. We've launched an aggressive and ambitious campaign to end youth incarceration as we know it, eliminate neighborhood oil drilling, and fight for a roof over every head. And we've made incredible gains by funding and supporting organizers on the front lines of change, working with donors and funders to fuel their work. So please become part of the family. I get the amazing pleasure today to introduce you to two longtime members of the Liberty Hill family. We have Melinda Newman, who is the executive editor at Billboard. She's been on Liberty Hill's board of directors for about 10 years. And she's super famous as far as I'm concerned. She recently won the Country Music Awards 2020 Media Achievement Award. She did an amazing interview a few months ago with Dolly Parton that went viral because Dolly said, "Of course Black Lives Matter. Do we think our little white asses are the only ones that matter?" And she gets to hang out with people like Elton John and Garth Brooks and all sorts of people. So I'm a huge fan of Melinda's and so grateful to you, Melinda, for being willing to do this interview today with John Densmore, who of course needs no introduction, drummer for the Doors. I grew up listening to the Doors, so I've always get a little giddy when I get to hang out with John Densmore, and he rewards me with his wit, but he also keeps me on my toes. And he definitely knows how to keep all of us on our toes. So I've been grateful for your friendship, John, over the years, and all of the contributions you've made to Liberty Hill. Really just believing in us and supporting us whenever you can, and holding us accountable to our vision. So I'm really happy to have you both here tonight. And without further ado, John Densmore and Melinda Newman.
Shane, thank you so much. Hi, John.
Hey, keeps Shane on her toes. Okay. Yeah.
I think we're glad you do that, though not that she needs anyone to light a fire under her. No pun intended, actually. So first off, just thank you so much for being with us tonight, John. I want to just start by plugging the book. It is fantastic. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight, and we're going to talk about your social activism, but I want to start with your deep connection to Liberty Hill. You and I were both lucky enough to have been brought into Liberty Hill by the late Gary Stewart, someone who we both loved and were very close to, as were a number of people who are on this Zoom. So could you just start by talking about how you got brought into Liberty Hill?
Well, actually, I went to the Upton Sinclair dinner that honored Oliver Stone, and he was shooting the movie on our band. And I was exposed to this great organization in my hometown. My mom was born in Santa Monica in 1904, so we got some roots, you know. Although we're not native, the Chumash or the native First Peoples, but I'm really proud to be connected with Liberty Hill because I love LA and hate it, but Gary Snyder, Pulitzer poet, said, the most ecological thing you can do is stay where you live and make it better. So, that's what you guys are trying to do, and I'm down.
Well, you've been a big part of our success. I know that you have been public about donating 10% of your wealth to social justice. How did you come to that decision? And why is giving back so important to you?
I think it's kind of natural that when you get the brass ring, you give back. We're all on the shoulders of everyone else. And, the tithing is kind of an old tradition. I guess, I don't know, a lot of Christianity maybe started it, possibly. I tend to give to a little more radical, progressive things than the church, but it's a good thing. It's a sweet thing. And so if everybody gave their little 10, then folks with no dough would be given $10, and those billionaires, they'd be given quite a chunk, and that'd be good.
It would change the world.
Could do.
You know, how do you decide what organizations to give to? Like at Liberty Hill, we have a donor advised program. Do you use that, or do you, you're very good at research, as we know from the book, and just remembering things. How do you decide what organizations to support?
Intuition, I mean, I've noticed when I was younger, whenever I was in a stressful situation, going into nature healed me, and so at first I started ecological things. And then I thought about how, wait a minute, there's some kids here in LA who've never seen the ocean. You know what I mean? And wow, so let's get some criminal justice going. So, there's a host of things out there, good things to support.
You can plug any of them at any time.
Yeah.
So if so please feel free to plug them in, because I think for all of us, we're always looking for organizations, and it's just difficult to know. I mean, we use Charity Navigator, we use other, devices to make sure that the organizations are on the up and up, but reference is the best way, I think.
Actually, I think Bill Gates, once he made the decision to give away, I don't know what, quite 90% of his dough, which only leaves a few billion for his kids. He did say he found out that donating the money was more difficult than earning it, because he wanted to see it work rather than be, pissed away. And so it's kind of interesting.
Do you find that true? Like, have you had trouble sometimes figuring out who's the right place to donate to?
No, because as Shane said, I'm what did she say? I'm meticulous or something.
You not hold your feet to the fire. What was it, Shane?
Yeah.
Exactly what you said. But, so you do your research before you check.
Yeah.
Do you see music as an act of activism?
Yeah, I got to say the title of this program, what is it? Music songs as social change?
Something like that. We'll go with that.
Yeah, that was provocative. It's interesting. Jim Morrison felt deeper. You need to work on your interior, and then everything will have sort of concentric circles and come out. Meanwhile, he wrote a bunch of political songs. So in fact, wait a minute. If you want to go over any of them, not right now, but there's Unknown Soldier, 5 to 1, Music's Over, Ship of Fools, Love Me 2 Times, Peace Frog. They're all very politically oriented. So much for your interior. Maybe his interior was already evolved and coming out. I don't know.
We'll get to him later, because the chapter on him is really illuminating to me, which obviously only you could write. I mean, you were one of 4 people that were in that band that know that history. But I want to start with even just the idea of the book. You talk about in the intro that the influence was a book called Meetings with Remarkable Men, that was about men who were seekers of truth. And this is your version of that. Can you talk about that book? It's from 1927, and how it influenced you and led you to your path on this?
Yeah, Gurdjieff was a Russian-Armenian sort of mystic in the end of the 18th century. And he wrote this book. The book's rather dense, kind of hard to get through, but actually there was a cult film with Peter Brook directing and Terrence Stamp was starring. Kind of a weird movie, but all the people in the movie are musicians trying to play so well that they catch God's ear. And I thought, oh, there you go. Meetings with remarkable musicians, all the people that fed me. I'm going to tip my hat to all of them. And that's where I got the whole concept. And then I threw in some writers and some mystics, Ram Dass and Joseph Campbell and whatever, because they're kind of, I think writing is kind of looking for music in between sentences in a way. I'll explain that. I'll break that down if you like. But,
Yeah, sure.
well, a sentence, if it's short, it's percussive. And if it's long, it's melodic and lengthy, or it's a run-on, and you better edit. So, oh, you're a journalist, it's
I know all about that. Yeah.
So I'm sure when you write, if you read your paragraph out loud, you realize, oh, that's flowing, or no, that needs to be cut. It's music.
We're going to get into more of that later, because I think especially the chapter about the Dalai Lama, like there's some very interesting things about music and in silence and the balance there. But you just said something that really struck me about that movie, that it's about playing where you catch God's ear. Did you have an experience where you ever felt like you caught God's ear when you were playing? Does it happen nightly when you play, or is it something that does not happen, very often?
That's pretty interesting. I kind of twitch when I use the G word. I like to say I believe in the mystery, but
Yes.
If I'm playing for, I did a Beyond Baroque poetry reading a year or two ago, and a few hundred people and hand drumming and poetry, but I felt real connected to the audience. So that's when you're here. The mystery, the muse is feeding you, and it can be 12,000 people at Madison Square Garden or 12 people at a poetry reading. And that's the exciting thing about it. You don't have. I mean, it's great to be worshipped by the masses and all, but if your integrity is still being fulfilled, it doesn't matter if it's. And that's why I also say in this book, go play the piano in your closet and nobody hears it, or paint or whatever. You're going into a zone that kind of feeds you, like art is medicine for the soul. And it's so difficult these days. Our souls need help.
I want to follow up with that exact point that you just said. You kind of twitch around the G word, but what I think is one of the most beautiful parts of this book is a number of the people that you've written about here are no longer with us, whether it's Jim or Janis Joplin or Fred Katz, who you and I were just talking about, one of your teachers. When you talk about their dying, you talk about it in such beautiful terms, like an ascension, or it's not the end at all. You talk about how you talk to George Harrison, you talk to Jim, that to me was one of the most beautiful parts of this book, when you talk about death not being the end of communication at all, and you talk about guardian angels, and I just thought that was a very for someone who twitches at the G word, that is an incredibly beautiful part of this book.
Well, I quote George Harrison, who was talking about his feelings for John Lennon after he passed, and he said, which struck me, if you can't have a relationship with someone who was very important to you after they passed, how are you going to have a relationship with Jesus or whoever your deity is? And I thought, right. And my mom was always talking about seeing her friends, and I don't know, I have dreams of Jim and Ray, and so we're talking.
You are talking. I want to read this quote, so I got to put on my glasses. In the intro, you say something that resonated with me as someone who's not a musician at all, that it just felt very welcoming and very inviting. You said, "I've learned anyone can access the magical moment these gifted artists live in." So immediately you're kind of telling the reader you don't have to be Willie Nelson. You don't have to be you. You don't have to be Jim Morrison. You don't have to be some, Elvin Jones, some genius to access the magic that you felt these seekers have. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We've all got to go to the bathroom and sometimes get divorced, whether you're a icon or whatever the hell. And so it's best to find something that centers you, and art seems to center everybody. And you don't have to climb the Billboard charts where you work. It'd be great. I mean, making a living off of your art is heaven. But it's not, your interior life is all of it. If that's messed up, what are you going to do? And Jim and Janice checked out early, and their interior lives were kind of rocky, and
Yes.
It wasn't easy, boy. But as time's gone by, I accept their early demise and appreciate the gifts that they've given us.
We're going to talk more about them, but I want to talk about the connection. You bring up music and arts and healing PTSD. We're in a very traumatic time right now between the pandemic and politics. How do you think music can help us through this, and how is music helping you through this time?
Well, music is kind of like a meditation. Some is punk music doesn't seem very meditative, but after you listen to punk, then you need the silence. And I talk about that. You need silence to balance sound. If you just have sound, you have no contrast. And I even go as far as to say that in the beginning was the word, and that's a sound, a vibration. And so we're already into this sort of cosmic sound and silence area. And if you're going crazy with the times, get silent. Play music, or just hit a gong and listen to the gong go into silence, and you'll be into that infinity space for a little bit, and it helps.
Is that what you've done? Like, is that, how you,
I'm going to do it right now. Maybe you can't hear this. I don't know.
It's very soothing.
Yeah.
Just even the sound of it is just peaceful to me, and hope that is hopeful to me.
Here's the full effect. This is a chime tree. It's made out of keys, just keys, but they're all in the same key going up. Vibration.
I will never look at my keys the same way.
Yeah.
Wow. You brought up your mom, and so it seems a good place to start. She's your first chapter of the book, and you write very lovingly about your mom, who was a painter. There's an amazing picture in the book of her painting, just a few days before she died at 94. Like, she was very vital till the end. What was her influence on you?
Oh, well, she did say that when she had pain, she painted. So I thought, wow, that's incredible. To transfer that is pretty strong. She encouraged my piano playing. She even tolerated cacophonous drums in the living room. So I loved her for all of that. But interesting, just a month ago, I realized in the second or third chapter that's on Elvin Jones, Coltrane's drummer, I write about how the mother's heartbeat in the womb was the first drum beat we all heard, And so I thought, well, of course my mom's the first chapter. I was in her womb. She's the beginning.
I want to follow up more on that though, because that's very interesting. My very next question was about Elvin Jones, and that you say how drums are so vital to all of us because drums replicate the first beat any of us ever heard, which, as you just said, is your mother's heartbeat. And we spend our lives chasing that beat. And that's why we're just drawn to certain music, because it brings us back at the closest thing we can get to being back in the womb. How do you think chasing the beat, that's been your life journey, right? That's it.
It's everyone's journey. All music has this pulse, and it's kind of like the first metronome that you heard. And if a musical group, if it's a duet or a giant 40-piece orchestra, they're trying to play like one. And that's to get to that homeland security. It's just that, I don't know. And that's what makes people dance. I mean, if a band doesn't have the good groove, the pocket, you don't move. And it's funny, Thelonious Monk, I quoted him. He said, 10 things to make a great musician. And the very first one was have a good sense of time, especially if you're not the drummer. Oh, that's brilliant. Because you could be a sax player going, but if you don't have the internal metronome, we don't respond.
What was your and Ray Manzarek's sense of timing like?
Ooh, good one. Yeah. Okay. To musicians, or to drummers especially, one beat is very large. And in other words, the feeling you put on, you play the beat, and then the next beat, you can do it real late, and that would be like the blues, or you can do it quickly, and that would give a military feel, or polka, And so, what was the question?
What was the sense of timings? Like you said, the Monk quote, which is, you better really have a good sense of timing or rhythm if you're not the drummer. Yeah, so you and Ray clearly.
Right. So when I met Ray, we talked about Miles Davis, and I said, do you know all blues? And he said, sure. And we played this song, which is in 3/4. And, in a few bars, musicians can feel like you're simpatico or you're not. And we were, thank God. and I also quote Neil deGrasse Tyson, who says, all the planets in our solar system are being affected by the gravitational pull of each planet. So everyone is pushing and pulling on everyone else, just like a musical group, a duet, an orchestra, whatever. You're all adjusting. And then if the guitar player gets too full of himself, then you're out of balance. Chiani Scazzi. Or if the lead singer blasts off into the cosmos like ours, Jim becomes a shooting star and he's gone. So it's a real balance.
I think, when you're just talking about the difference between rock and blues, there's the chapter on on Bob Marley and your adventures in Jamaica really also talks, and I found this, again, not being a musician, fascinating, talking about, reggae rhythms and how they're even different, from what you were talking about. Can you talk about that a little bit and what you discovered in your trips to Jamaica?
Bob Marley wrote a line, playing a rhythm, fighting against the system. Oh boy. So they took the standard 4/4 feel and they turned it upside down. The rumor is that they heard transistors from transistor radios from Cuba or somewhere, or the States, and it was all staticky, and they thought it went lopsided or whatever. But then Marley later coined that line because it's to a drummer, you do a flurry and then you come in strong on one, and in reggae you come in on two. So it's, I don't know how to, boom, bop, doom, doom, bop. We rock and roll, da 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 da, boom, bop. Reggae, da 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 da, it flips it, and it's so unique. It's simple, but it's a whole nother deal. And then, of course, Marley's incredible visionary, political, socially conscious lyrics, love it.
That leads me right into, I want to go back to the chapter with Elvin Jones, because in that chapter you bring up Coltrane writing Alabama after the Ku Klux Klan bombed a church in Alabama, killing 4 young African-American girls.
Yeah.
What musicians have used their talents to write about politics or strife that have influenced you? I mean, I would imagine, everyone from Marley to Dylan to, Coltrane. And what is a musician's role to chronicle the times that he or she lives in?
Well, I mean, you don't have to chronicle the times, but art kind of is an example of the time you're living in. So it comes out either overtly political or it seeps out. You got to be subtle. You can't hammer politics. Right now we somehow have to reach across the aisle, don't we? I mean, I know there's some a little blue spots in Arizona, and then there's some red spots in California. So hopefully we can connect. But hammering with facts, people knee jerk, maybe just showing who you are as a human being. We all are fellow human beings. Maybe we can cross that gap. I don't know.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We're all, looking for that. Again, the chapters with Jim and Ray, I found particularly touching because, again, there's only 4 people in the world that were in that circumstance, that were in that band. And you talk about how Jim tapped into something from another world, which, you reference that a lot. The number of these seekers seem to tap into something beyond what most of us are tapping into. And that you, Ray, and Robbie were able to translate it and capture it because Jim didn't play any instrument. I don't know if he read music. Can you pick one? So didn't even read music. Can you pick one song and take us through how that process worked? In the book, you start with Break On Through. So I don't know if that's the one you want to use or, maybe one of the ones that you just brought up that was political. That kind of gives us insight into the singular magic that you guys created.
Yeah. I went down to Ray's parents' garage in Manhattan Beach, and there was this guy in the corner. He was wearing corduroys, a t-shirt, and bare feet, incredibly shy. Ray says, "That's Jim the singer. He's never sung." Okay, great. And then Ray gives me a crumpled piece of paper and it says, "Day destroys the night, night divides the day, tried to run, tried to hide, break on through the other side." I'm like, whoa, where's my drums? I heard rhythm immediately, and what is he talking about anyway? Kind of the void or raising of consciousness or something, That's the thing, like a great artist sometimes, there's many translations of what they're trying to say. It's kind of universal. It's like, I'm thinking of The Unknown Soldier, it's right smack in the middle of the Vietnam War. But Jim didn't say, Hanoi Blues. He said, breakfast where the news is read, television children fed, unborn living dead, bullet strikes the helmet's head. It's all over for the unknown soldier. Wow. I mean, that's talk about universal. And that just hits right into the soul. So there you have it.
Yeah, I get chills even when you're just citing the lyrics. I can't imagine as a musician what it must have been like for all of you when he handed you something. And like you said, did it always happen that way where when you read that couplet from Break On Through that you immediately knew what to do? Like just the lyrics were so musical that you guys were so in sync that you instantly knew where to go?
At the time, bossa nova was very popular. Da, 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 girl from Ipanema. And it just hit me. I'm going to do that, but make it stiff like rock and roll. Da, 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 da. Day destroys the night. Da, 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 da. In other instances, since he did not play a chord on any instrument, but he said to remember the words, he thought of melodies. And some of the melodies were so intricate. Now I'm going to show you why I'm the drummer, not the singer. Before you slip into unconsciousness, I'd like to have another kiss. Oh my God, really intricate chord changes. That's not a blues. So we're talking gifted. The guy was gifted. So he would sing and we'd go, wait, stop. F sharp. Okay, go on. No, so hold it. And we kind of eke it out like that. A lot of the songs.
You kind of mentioned this earlier about Jim and Janice. They are very sadly members of the 27 Club. So is Jimi Hendrix, so is Kurt Cobain, all of whom died when they were 27. I think one of the most poignant things you say in the book is someone once said to you that if Jim had not found the three of you, he would have died sooner. What is your thinking on that?
Oh, I was shocked just to even chew on that idea. But let me say something about this 27 Club. So-called primitive African cultures had this thing called Latima. And it was the period between, and they thought of this many thousands of years ago, the period between 14 and 27 is, and that was their number, that's when the elders have to kind of watch over the youth. They're supposed to be volatile, let them flail around, but make sure they don't hurt themselves and whatever. Boy, I mean, we don't have initiations anymore, but that 27, it's a pivotal corner to get around. I remember in my early 20s, I felt immortal. Late 20s, oh my God, I might get married and have kids. Oh, it's so.
Yeah.
The 27 Club.
Yes, yep. Too many members. I mean, Amy Winehouse, too many members to contemplate. Just too sad. You found some similarities between Jim and Janice, and also Lou Reed, not a member of the 27 Club, but you call, they're pretty much all tortured souls. I think you even refer to Lou as a tortured soul who wrestled a lot of demons. Do artists have to be tortured to be creative?
No, some are, like those three. Picasso lived to 90. There's many roads. Those three were, well, Jim and Janice were an example, teachers for me, an example of, I'm going to be careful here. I certainly dabbled, but I want to be on the long road. I still feel I have more to say. I'm writing another book here at 76. I can't believe it, but I don't know. It just came out and I got into it and it's what I do. So, and I like being an example to younger people that, don't just drink and wear leather pants and die. That's not going to get it.
Yeah.
For some it did, but there's many roads.
Yeah, it's I'm going to leave it totally up to you if you want to tell the story. But just as I was thinking, wow, he really loved everyone that he talks about, and you do. You tell the Van Morrison story at the Hollywood Bowl.
Okay.
I leave it up to you.
All right, I'll abbreviate it.
Okay.
So we were the house band at the Whiskey A Go-Go, and Them came to town. Gloria was their hit song. We became friends, and the last night before Van and the crew went back to the old sod, we played Gloria together. So, all right, now we're in Hollywood, so we're going to cut to years later. A few years ago, I get a call. Van's people say he's going to do Astral Weeks at the Hollywood Bowl, and would I play Gloria with him at the end of the first half? Yes. So I go to rehearse and he's nowhere around. And we rehearse anyway. They do parts without him. And I come back rather excited, and the manager comes up and says, okay, Gloria will be an encore, and you and Van will go out, and he'll introduce you, and then the rest will be history. Great. Okay, well, Van is, kind of difficult at times, and so we go out, and he doesn't introduce me. So I'm standing in front of 10,000 people, and they start the song because it's quiet. Something's got to happen. And I notice a tambourine under the backup singers, and I grab that, and I'm going like this, la, la, la. But inside, I'm not la, la, la at all. And it ends, and he disappears, and the managers are apologizing. And then later, I noticed they did a live version of Astral Weeks at the Hollywood Bowl and credited me playing tambourine. Whoa. So for the next year or so, I found myself changing the radio when his stuff came on. And then we were born before the wind, also younger than the sun, and the Bonnie both is one as we sail into the mystic. That did it. I love him. I mean, I'll accept. Jim was very difficult, Janice, and they gave gifts, and sometimes they were difficult. End of story.
But I will just say, when people read the book, you really talk about Astral Weeks and what a seminal album it was for you and how incredible it was for you. So you're not just ragging on him. Your disappointment was because you loved him so much. I will say certainly one who does not disappoint you. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but is Willie Nelson. And you spend a lot of time not just talking about Willie's talents, but you specifically talk about the kindness in his eyes.
Yeah. We all know he smokes herb, but that's not it. I mean, it's part of it, but there's such a warmth. I don't know. It's the same, when I first met Ray, it was at a Maharishi meditation class, right? And Jim came to one meeting because he wanted to look in Maharishi's eyes. And he said, oh, he's got some truth, but I'm not going to meditate. Too bad. Willie's got something there too, the same kind of thing. Dalai Lama, Ram Dass. There's something, I don't know what it is. It's a window to the soul.
I think, Ravi Shankar has that too. You read about that. And there's a part in that chapter where you talk about when spirit comes in, ecstasy overshadows everything.
I said that?
That's in the chapter. You
ecstasy,
write about that.
Ecstasy overshadows everything.
When spirit comes in, overshadows everything.
Yeah. Like Ravi Shankar is playing at 94, and he's really got aches and pains, but for those few hours, and that's that zone. You can go in there and play your piano in your closet, and you don't have to be proficient. Just, there's some healing salve there somehow. It's the music of the spheres. All the sonic warriors are trying to catch God's ear.
Really, I love the concept of that. Your chapter about Patti Smith, who, people use shamanistic about her the way they did about Jim. Like they were both just shaman. And what I loved in that chapter is there's a lot of freedom that comes from that chapter and how you look at her and how she didn't meet conventional beauty norms. She didn't meet, I've seen her in concert where I had to stand back because she's spitting. This is not someone who is putting up with traditional norms and is one of the most brilliant performers I've ever seen. But you talk about how the support you got from her in honoring your decision to not let Doors music be licensed. Can you talk about that decision, and have you changed your mind on any of that? You let me use for films, but not for commercials in what you believe is in accordance with Jim's wishes.
Wait a minute, let's back up. You said that she spat on you?
Yeah, I had to stand back so she didn't spit on me. She spits a lot when and anyone who's in this chat has probably seen her. She and James Hetfield from Metallica. Like if you're on that front row, they just spit. I mean spit, not just saliva comes out. They stop right there, and I've had to step back when I was on the front row to make sure she wouldn't intentionally spit on me. She just spits when she.
Well, the early punk days were very percussive. One time Little Richard noticed that his sweat was kind of dripping on the first few rows, and they were squirming a little, and he said, "Don't mind that. That's holy water."
You've been baptized. Yeah.
So Patty is so vulnerable, just fumbling with her sheet music and dropping it and still charming you. I don't know. It's just her openness, I think I said vulnerability for her chapter. Jumpstarts the punk movement. Then I'm a writer, you're a writer. She wins the National Book Award for Just Kids. I mean, my God, we're talking Renaissance woman here, and I think she feels like I do that music is can be sacred. It's a soundtrack to a lot of people's lives. So that begs the question, but we're not going to go there. Patty sang for Bob Dylan's thing, and now Bob has made a rather lucrative. Next question.
Yeah, but so you did answer my question that you have not changed your thinking on that. Like you still feel like it is Jim's wish that this music not be licensed for commercials like that.
Because he was so upset by Come On Buick, Light My Fire. He didn't write Light My Fire. Robbie did primarily. And I'm thinking of another political song. I didn't know this until a year ago or so. Robbie wrote the lyric, "Love Me Two Times, 'cause I'm going away." And just a year or so ago, he told me, because I'm going, he didn't say it, "I'm going away to Vietnam," was the subtext. And so should I "Love Me Two Times" because I just took Viagra? No.
Yeah, right. You do not want it heard that way, right? Yeah. Yeah. But I have a few more questions, but we're going to open it up for questions. So while we're waiting for those to come into me, I want to ask you about the Gustavo Dudamel chapter. Yeah. This ties back in with Liberty Hill and social activism. So he's the conductor of the LA Philharmonic, for anyone who doesn't know. In that chapter, you talk about children picking up instruments instead of guns. As Shane said, much of Liberty Hill's work has focused around stopping youth incarceration and focusing on intervention programs. Can music save the world? Can it at least stop a kid from picking up a gun? I mean, you've done marvelous things to help. Like, I know you paid for the sound system at the World Stage in Leimert Park. That obviously, they have youth programs for kids. Do you believe that music can save the world?
There's 7,000 kids in Venezuela who went through El Sistema, the program that Gustavo came up through, and it saved them, I mean, not that they all necessarily became classical musicians, but there's something there. We do what we can do. Gustavo believes, and I do too now, that if you understand more of the art of a culture, then you're going to get who they are. And then there's a simpatico human thing, and I don't know. Country music, I like country music, and then I saw Ken Burns' thing, the whole, and I really I knew all these people, Patsy Cline and, all of them, but I don't know, I got the depth of it, and it helped me understand a genre I don't know that well. I know jazz very well, and I know all of that. So that's, I don't know, the humanity comes out. through music.
We've got a question. How do you see your quest for spirituality, your meditation practice, 60s encounters with the legal psychedelics, Ravi Shankar, Ram Dass, how do they intersect with your quest for and commitment to a just world?
Oh, is this a question from the audience?
This is from Mary Ann.
Wait, read that again. That's a mouthful.
How do you see your quest for spirituality, including your meditation practice, 60s encounters with then legal psychedelics, Ravi Shankar, Ram Dass, how do you see them all intersect with your quest for and a commitment to a just world?
Wow. Well, yes, we were experimenting with then legal psychedelics, and we realized it's a little shattering on the nervous system, and so meditation would be a calmer route. And so that's where we headed. And it's interesting, there was no internet, and the Beatles were doing exactly the same thing, stumbled onto Maharishi and all that. So there's these archetypal Jungian undercurrents or something. How that leads to, well, that's Jim's thing. You keep raising your consciousness inside, and then you change, and then you're going to find yourself changing the world more, so.
But I would say reading this book, you say that's Jim's thing, but you have the references that you pull in here, like you said, there's a chapter on Robert Bly, there's a chapter on Joseph Campbell, like you bring up other philosophers, that sounds like that's been your thing too, to really just explore, whether through meditation, whether through just making sure you're learning, and that seems to have informed your worldview, not just musically, but in a social justice way as well.
Yeah, that is my thing. And it's very eclectic. I don't know how, but I think maybe it's metaphoric for the Doors, because Robbie brings flamenco and folk, Ray brings the blues and classical, Bach-like intro and Light My Fire. Jim brings all these words and philosophy, and so we're like an American melting pot, and it's a real tasty gumbo. So that's just how I came up, and I like the diversity, and that's what we need to do, folks. Diversity, make it equals strength.
In fact, I would say if there was a quality that all of the seekers that you highlight here shared, it's curiosity.
Nice.
That everyone is in the pursuit of excellence in some way, but also curious about how to become better at their craft, how to become better in the world around them. Maybe not Van Morrison that night, but in general. This is from Jason Vaughter. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing anyone's last name. He said, I'm a fellow drummer. We met in Memphis at a book signing. Could you tell me about the kit you have behind you?
Great. Well, I kind of stay with the small kit. I don't have 400,000 tom-toms like heavy metal drummers. In fact, there was this great jazz drummer, Billy Cobham, who played with a lot of fusion groups. And he could play so fast with one foot on the bass drum. I thought, I am not going to get two bass drums until I can have that one foot catch up with his foot. And it still hasn't. So I'm not the fastest, but dynamics is the whole thing for me. Fortissimo and pianissimo and everything in between gives you all the human emotions, and your drumming becomes musical rather than just, you got to keep the beat. That's your first job, but you can nuance it with dynamics, and that's it. There's my kit, a regular little jazz kit.
There's a part in the book, I'm going to misquote it because I just don't want to thumb through it right now, but you say that someone wrote, you should only be technical enough so that you can express yourself. Like, don't let that get in the way. Like, you should only be proficient enough so that your gifts can shine. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, do you know?
Yeah, I wrote, technique is not everything. You need to garner enough technique to get across your personal message, whatever's inside of you. And so, like the punks, kind of not a lot of technique on those instruments, Lou Reed treated his guitar almost like a drum, like a percussion instrument, the way he bashed it. Classical musicians are extremely technical. But see, that's the gift of Gustavo Dudamel. He is aware of salsa, Led Zeppelin, and jazz, and it feeds him. And he says to me, Juan, Mahler is heavy metal. I'm like, what? But the melody to the Mahler symphony, I just heard him conduct. He sings the line, and it kind of sounds like a bass line from some metal band. So he's open. He's taking it all in. And that's where it is. Dynamics.
He's curious. This is from James Pomerantz. I feel like the 60s and 70s were the greatest final frontier for rock music. Do you have a desire to help turn music back to where it mattered, more poetic and real organic instruments?
Yes, the 60s were a renaissance, most definitely. But there's great stuff now, Hip hop is great social commentary and really good. I mean, it started out a little rough, bitches and hoes or whatever, but there's a lot of really good, powerful stuff there. What else? World music, you can hear music in another language. You can't literally understand it, and you get the feeling of that country. That's great.
Yeah, that's this is Damien Connolly. He wants to know, what's your favorite Doors song?
Oh, let's see. I would say my favorite Doors album might be LA Woman. I just got into town about an hour ago. That song is a perfect freeway song, about 60 miles an hour. Riders on the Storm is heaven for me. Ray's solo is etched on all our brains. It's just got a beautiful pocket. There's, Carlos Santana said Riders has a mystique about it that it's in the groove. So maybe it's the thunder and rain we put on there. I don't know.
Well, could be, but what's your favorite one to play? What was your favorite one to play?
Well, I loved playing Light My Fire because everybody got up and danced. And then we played the end as our encore, and then everybody walked out silently like they were bludgeoned or something. And they took the music home rather than dissipated it in applause.
Oh, that's an interesting thought, that they walked out carrying it with them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And took it with them.
And that's the thing about silence. Like Dudamel will finish Beethoven 20 minutes of and I'm doing this on purpose. You don't applaud till the conductor puts his arms down. And then when he finally does, that minute of silence in there is so deep. So
yeah, you talk about the power of silence in the Dalai Lama chapter.
Yeah.
And the simple fact is most of us are very uncomfortable with silence.
Yes, this is true. Me included.
Even though you talked earlier about the balance between sound and silence.
A work in progress. I couldn't sleep last night, maybe because I was thinking about this interview today. And I thought, now, come on, Mr. Silence, get in there.
You're almost done. Hopefully you'll be able to sleep better tonight now that it's over. What do you think of the current generation of very engaged musicians? It seems, this is from John Christensen, it seems to me that musicians are as engaged as ever in social justice. You've got artists like Common, you've got artists like Tom Morello, artists like John Legend. What do you, that's just three off of a lot that I could name. What do you think of them? Are you paying attention to that? Is that in your?
I'm more into writing and various authors. And so I was worried when you started asking the question, but then you named 3 people that they're doing wonderful stuff, so that's, more. I want more.
Do you ever worry that, I know John Legend has definitely gotten pushback for talking politics and for, also very much putting his money where his mouth is. Do you ever worry about the backlash that you might get for speaking out about something you felt strongly about?
You're always going to get pushback, got a lot of pushback at the Miami concert.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Jim did not expose himself, but he was drunk and he was saying a lot of political things. And it was right at the peak of the Vietnam War where the whole country was polarized, not unlike today. And they targeted us as, get these hippies. And, Anita Bryant had a rally for decency, 30,000 people in the Orange Bowl, and Nixon sent a letter of congratulations, and we caused all that. But we're ahead of the curve, Anita.
You were ahead of the curve, and it's also kind of comforting when I hear stories about that, when I just think everything has gone insane right now, to realize it's either always been insane or we've definitely had pockets of insanity before and come through it, Yin
and yang is etched on my arm. That's why, thank God, we can see a little light now going around the corner of Goodbye Agent Orange, if you know who I mean by that, and the vaccine and okay, I'm going to get political. When Hillary lost, I said to my friends, God damn it, I am going to see a woman president before I die. Now I'm kind of excited by the idea of a Black woman president before I die. Oh boy, this is good. There's light coming, maybe 10 years, 15 years of light. And then we'll flip back to, it's all balance.
It is all balance. There's a question from a long-time Liberty Hill supporter, guy, Mitch Kamen. And I'm going to end with this, that you, John, said the strife of the 60s was not unlike today. What perspectives can you offer from those times that will help us get through these? And maybe it was part of what you just said, that, things ebb and flow, but you lived through very turbulent times and you were a truth teller during those times, and someone that people turn to with the music to get them through those times. What can you offer us today to get through these times?
It will change. Whatever's going on changes. Seeing napalmed kids every night on TV was really horrific. It was more horrific than now, certainly. Oh God, how do we get to the truth? All I want is some truth, John Lennon sang, and we're getting there. And there's a lot of folks who bought the lies, and they're going to have to swallow them. And that's gotta somehow gently put our arms around those people somehow. I don't know what I'm talking about, but as Leonard Cohen sang, democracy is coming to the USA. Not quite here. It's on the way. A work in progress. These United States.
Yeah, that's I can't think of a better comment to end on. Just on behalf of Liberty Hill, I just want to thank you for joining us tonight. And I want to thank everyone who's been on this call. And I want to just remind people that John's book makes an excellent holiday gift. And look, it's available lots of places. You can support your local bookstores, which we know have been having trouble during the pandemic. Or if you order through Amazon, you can support Liberty Hill through the Amazon Smile program. But John, just thank you. Any final thoughts from you or Shane? I don't know if you wanted to hop back on, but just thank you very, very much. If you don't have anything else to add, John, if we'll just say good night then, and thank everyone again for coming.
I just want to say much love.
Love you, John. Thank you so much. Thank you, Melinda.
Thank you, guys. Bye.